Talk Business, a talk show curated and presented by Restart India, an initiative started by Muthoot Fincorp Limited in partnership with Inc. Restart India came into being during the initial days of the lockdown with an aim to address the concerns of small businesses. One of the ways we connect with our community of small businesses is through our live events. At Restart India, while we are running on-ground campaigns to support and restart micro and nano businesses, the talk shows and live events are aimed to create a community wherein the advice from one entrepreneur or mentor can help other startups learn, share views, and grow. Our live events also create awareness to enable the community to come together and support small and local businesses. In this new edition of live events, we call Let's Talk Business. It is a conversation between entrepreneurs who run small businesses. We want to hear from them on how they ideated, set up their business, the challenges they faced, and how they have come to be where they are now.
Restart India.
Hi, good evening everyone and welcome to Let's Talk Business. I am Shraddha Narayanan, Program Manager at Restart India. Today we have a very special show lined up for you today. We have invited a panel of young achievers and they're going to share out their thoughts with us on a very important topic. It's Women's Day and today is our Women's Day special episode called Let's Talk Money, a discussion by the women for women. And without wasting any more time, let me introduce you to our wonderful panelists. We have three panelists here with us today, Susanna Muthoot, Nisri Mahesh, and Vaishali Sagar. Susanna is the next gen of the Muthoot Papachan Group and has spent considerable time understanding the business from the ground level. She's worked in the Mumbai office as a zonal strategic consultant to help revamp their business performance. With the help of strategies she implemented there, the zone saw 120% growth in the MSME across Gujarat, a 20% increase in the NCA across the states in the West. Susanna has a BBA in Finance and Economics from the University of Notre Dame, USA, and a Master's in Management from IE Business School in Spain in 2019. She's currently working on an initiative to institutionalize purpose at a branch level and bring about a cultural shift in the current customer engagement model at Muthoot Fincorp branches. In addition to this, she is also overseeing the launch of a new digital gold loan service. On the personal front, she spends a lot of her time focusing on her mental and physical health. She loves to stay engaged in physical activities and frequently takes part in long-distance races and half marathons. She also has distinctions in piano and singing. Wow, Susanna, welcome. Let me introduce our next panelist, Nisri Mahesh. She's a former banker turned writer, entrepreneur, and she's been catalytic in empowering women through financial literacy and inclusion, upskilling and entrepreneurship. Currently, she's the founder and CEO of Her Money Talks, a one-stop financial platform for women. She is also the director of HubWords Private Limited, helping brands with content, branding, and online marketing strategy planning. She is a financial and business columnist, and she has published in various frontline publications like Financial Express and Business Line. 7+ years of corporate experience in banking, customer service, and operational training in ICICI, HDFC, and Reliance. Along with that, she has 10+ years in communications, branding, and new media strategy planning. Over and above, she's a consultant, mentor, and trainer at various women and startup platforms. Wow, Nisri, it's really nice to read your bio. Welcome to our Let's Talk Business. Vaishali Sagar is our final panelist. She is a part of Amazon Web Services public sector team and has previously worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers and Google. In her current role at AWS public sector, Vaishali handles the Startup Ramp program, which is an accelerator program designed to help startups build and scale innovative solutions on AWS. She has a bachelor's in business management and studies sociology from Osmania University She also has a PG diploma in IPR from National Law School, Bangalore. She pursued technology and policy from Takshila Institution in 2020 and was recently part of She Represents, which aims to enable a community of strong, politically motivated women. She's played a key role in Google's philanthropy team. And outside of her work, in her personal capacity, she contributes towards awareness for menstrual hygiene, environment, entrepreneurship, and community building at large. She's a global climate change ambassador and was recently recognized under Exceptional Individuals category as a part of COVID Warriors by the government of Telangana. Wow, it's so nice to be in the company of three really accomplished women. Welcome here and happy Women's Day to all of you.
Thank you. You too, Shraddha.
Thank you, guys. Really nice to meet you. And we have a lot to cover. And I have so many questions I want to ask you guys personally. And we have some audience questions as well lined up. So let's just get started. The first question is to all of you. You've just noticed from your bio, you have such diverse experience. You've had experience working with women also through their careers at different stages. For each of you, given your background and having worked with a lot of women, what are the changes you've seen in the women's attitude towards money and finances over the years? Your own personal perspective. Susanna, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah. I think women have definitely become more independent with managing their money and financials over the years. Whether it's from lower income segment or even to an young affluent women, I think they enjoy and want that financial freedom and prefer not to be dependent on their spouse or their family for money. So from a work perspective, we work with actually 1.9 million women entrepreneurs in our microfinance organization. All of them who run their own business independently. These women are financially literate. They take loans to expand their businesses. They invest their excess savings. And what we've seen is that these women tend to be more responsible with money as compared to men and tend to save more, especially in the lower income segment. And I think technology has made investment platforms more accessible and easier to use as well, whether it is to invest in digital gold or in the stock market. If you have a bank account and access to the internet, you can easily invest in these on your own. And even many of my peers have tried their hand at investing for the first time recently, thanks to products like these that are straightforward even to a newcomer.
Nice. Thanks, Susanna, and for bringing in the small business perspective. Nisri, can I turn to you next? What have you noticed in your years of experience?
The times when I was growing up, the scenario was totally different. It was like soon after the studies, the ideal job for a woman is a career as a teacher or a banker or maybe in a government job. So if you're not getting that, usually the parents' first concern is that get married, no? So many women had to sacrifice their career for personal reasons. So they have to relocate where their husbands are in. So career or financial freedom was not that important, say maybe 10, 15 years back. But now today the scenario is totally changed. The young women who are out of the college, they have a lot of aspirations. That means financial freedom, they're giving more importance for financial freedom. And again, if you take 5 to 10 years back, women empowerment was a buzzword then also, but it was restricted towards skilling, being in job, that's all. But today, I think last Women's Day, a Paytm advertisement which was released was viral. It was talking about the financial gap. Where all these women excel, but when it comes to money, we are so happy outsourcing it to our husbands or the male members of the family. But I think that advertisement and recent talks, maybe we take last couple of years, there are a lot of conversations coming about women and money. Women are good money managers. In our community also, we have about 40,000 women in our community at Her Money Talks. So we have seen women actively now coming forward. They want to learn about finance. They are asking questions. They are showing interest. Earlier, if we say 5 to 10 years back, their investments was just restricted to gold or a fixed deposit. Now they are asking active questions about mutual funds and even crypto. So that's how things are changing. It's more of a learning mode. Still, there is a lot more to go, but I think they are very keen in knowing and starting something their own, and the taste of having the financial freedom, no, they're really liking it. The new attitude. That's all.
Nice. Thanks, Nisri. Very nice perspective which you've put. Vaishali, you have a very different background from both these ladies. So, what have you thought? What has your experience been?
Uh, no, I think I will probably talk about my individual experience and also what I've seen with respect to women entrepreneurs, right? We've seen a generation, I think we're the only generation with 21st century products, 20th century teachers, and 19th century schools. We used to see a lot of women only pursuing the conventional women friendly enterprises like cottage industries, anywhere between the three P's, right? Papad, petticoat, and pickle. But right now, I think the things have changed. There's definitely a lot of shift with respect to the new age startups and how we're looking at the shift coming towards tech-based startups as well. With what we've seen with Nika recently, and a lot of women venturing into entrepreneurship, along with venture capital, funding, and how we've seen the difference difference in decades in the last couple of decades itself, and how every year we're noticing the steady rise in women entrepreneurship with respect to funding and also finance, access to finance for these women entrepreneurs, right? And I think the general working women, tribe has also increased quite a bit, and the financial freedom that Nisri was talking about is definitely bang on. But I think the message remains similar, that wallet becomes your best friend when a woman walks out. I think people are realizing it a lot more these days. So that's what I've seen a lot of difference with respect to how this is working through right now.
Great. Thanks, Vaishali. I think one quote, financial independence or financial freedom, has been pretty, synonymous with all three of you, what you've mentioned. So, Nisri, let me try and get your 2 cents on this. What do you consider as financial independence? And if you could say that, especially for women, what it is, that would be really great.
See, financial freedom, I think the term is maybe misused or understood differently. It's not something feministic thinking or anything. It's more like having money, first thing, and making the money work for you so that you have a lot of dreams and aspirations, future plans, a lot of things. You have money to do what you want for you and for your family. After all, say you have skill, you have a lot of aspirations, but if you're not able to do that, there's no point. So like that, achieving your dreams, having money when you want it, uh, that's for me, that is financial freedom.
That's very
And
nice.
also
Very,
having that confidence about money. Many women, I have seen that when it comes to financial matters, they have that feeling, okay, I don't know anything. This is a rocket science. Okay, I don't know. This is something I don't understand. So maybe even if they are right, won't come forward because they may be thinking I may be criticized because my views may be wrong. When you are out of that kind of thinking, you are free to express and you are free to take your decisions. You voice your own thoughts. You have that confidence. That makes a lot of difference. That's when you
excellent.
enjoy the true freedom.
Great. So knowing your finances, taking charge of them, having confidence to execute it the way you want it and when you need it is financial independence. And I'm really glad, Mr. you brought this up. And we are going to, of course, delve a little more into these topics as we, get through the session today. My next question is for Susanna. Do you have any money management tips for women, just for to get us started? And please do stress on different ages. It may be a little different for women in 20s and in 30s and in 40s. So, what do you think? Is there one mantra? Is there 2, 3 tips which you can give us?
Um, so I probably started really looking into this just a few years back. So of course I went straight to the internet trying to figure out how do you create a budget and how do you so of course this is not something unless your family talks to you about this is not something that personal finance is not something that they teach you in college or they teach you in school. It's not something that's talked about as much. You kind of have to figure it out on your own. And I think when you try something out, you tend to, it's learning by doing. Um, So my tips primarily for people in their 20s, but I think it's quite applicable for across the board. But this is the advice I got finally when I was very confused from a wealth manager who gave me just a rough understanding on this is where you can start. So what he said is take your income, okay, understand what your fixed expenses are, take that fixed expenses out of the income, and then from what is left over, have a goal in mind on what you want to save. And what he said is most important is that once you've decided, say you have 50,000 left, 30,000 left, and you want to save 15,000 a month, you as soon as your salary falls into your bank account, that 15,000 should you should set up like a recurring auto debit where immediately that 15,000 gets transferred either into another savings account or into an SIP or any other form of investment. So trying to save what is left over after spending, that 30,000 is not the way to go, because you'll always be tempted to spend more. You're not going to be as systematic with it. And I think being regular and systematic is very, very important when it comes to savings. So the next step I would say is to figure out what you want to do with your savings. Of course, savings and investment is not the same thing. Savings generally mean you deposit money into an account or into a fixed deposit, and you earn an interest on it. But by investing, you're buying an asset that has the potential to increase in value over time. It's good to do a mix of both. And the advice I was given was that you want to keep some money in your bank account or as an FD. Though the returns are small, this is readily available cash for you for short-term goals. Investing is more long-term. There is more risk involved, but also the potential for greater returns. So if you don't know where to start, a good rule of thumb would be to have savings that is approximately equal to about 6 months worth of your fixed expense. Or that was what the advice that I got, and that's what I've been practicing since then. So and it's worked really well for me. So I think this is a great way to start. It's a good way to start. Set up a base.
Great. Thanks, Susanna. Really nice. I think a lot of us got a lot of tips. A lot of what you said made sense, that you can't hope to, save after you have leftover and you want to spend. It should just get deducted from your account right away.
Yeah.
And you should not look at it. Otherwise, you'll never get to save.
Yeah.
Excellent. A different perspective now, Vaishali. You have an experience of working with women-led startups. How have you viewed their role in securing finances, say, for their companies or maybe even for themselves? Because startups tend to be very intense, small teams. A lot of it is dependent on cash flow and the monies. What do you think?
I think I will definitely bring in a general entrepreneur perspective, because while I really hate to say female founders, women entrepreneurs being very gender specific, but I think I see a lot of women also doing this, and I think in the recent couple of months when I spoke to a few entrepreneurs, that's what I've realized as well. We put a lot of good money behind the bad money. With respect to what's coming in through on their fixed assets or fixed rent, promotions, branding, etc. Even though business is not going well, right? Just to ensure we keep the lights on with respect to a few of these brands and associations that they have with partnerships, and that's what is going on. I think that's something that people really need to change with respect to how things are going on. And I think this has been continuing in the pandemic, because, this has been growing in the pandemic, the way that we see it right now with what's going on. But throwing away good money behind bad money is something what I've realized didn't work for a lot of entrepreneurs generally. I see a lot of reflections that work through for entrepreneurs on how they've sat down, or how we all sit down to just understand what do we start, what do we stop, and what do we continue to do. And I think we should do that every quarter, generally as working population or as working entrepreneurs. I think it's important for us to keep a tab on the calendar as well, apart from just a person who's your personal finance person, I mean, a personal wealth manager or a CA running up to you. You shouldn't wait for those red lights to jump in. I've realized a lot of entrepreneurs do those mistakes quite often without keeping a tab of what's happening with their funding, with their expenses, with respect to team, branding, marketings, and subscriptions, etc. Right? I think these reflection points need to be set up on a timely manner, on a particular operational cadence, so that there is good money that's being, discussed about on an every quarter basis. And of course, I think the access to finance, I think, has changed quite a bit with respect to the programs and the platforms that are coming up right now. But the mantra has been similar with respect to how sustainability is important, so that you keep the finance. You ensure you are making money with the money that you're spending through. It can be your own money or your investors' money, but you ensure you keep the money. Keep the money in the right places when it comes to spending. I think that's something that's also important from an entrepreneur's point of view, on how they're not really looking at keeping a tab on these things. I still haven't heard of a lot of tools which are really supporting entrepreneurs. I mean, there are quite a few CRM, ERP tools that are coming in through with respect to what the beginner starters of entrepreneurs journey is with respect to early stages. But with respect to scale stages, I don't see a lot of tools coming in for financial management for these entrepreneurs. And I think all these things need to be really taught to entrepreneurs, so that they really keep themselves in the right fit of their business.
Great. I think this is pretty much a quarter of our time right now, but we've got such interesting points. One, how you should save. Second, that we're not taught how to manage personal finances. We have to figure it out on our own. I think that kind of feeds into what Vaishali you just mentioned. Since we haven't really been groomed in that, that's why when you become entrepreneurs, you struggle. And also what it means to have financial independence. So I think it's a good juncture now. I want to dwell a little deeper into all of your personal journey and your relationship with money, right? So let me ask all of you this. What was that turning point, or maybe the experience in your life when you realized, hey, you know what? I think I should start investing, or maybe now I need to start taking charge of my money, and or has it always been that I have always been, I'm in charge, I'll take care of it. So it'll be really nice to know you guys a little personally, how you deal with money. Vaishali, why don't we start with you this time?
Sure. I think the turning point was a turning point for the entire world, is what I realized as well. It was a pandemic, where I realized that we're not done with the loss of lives, but also the livelihoods losses begin for a lot of us, that I have observed, at least with respect to startups, small businesses, and external ecosystem around. And I think that's when I went back, and I think usually when Susan was also mentioning about, jumping to the internet and reading through all the material that you can with respect to managing personal finance, investments, savings, mutual funds. I remember downloading 3 apps during the pandemic just to ensure I start learning about these, shares, how you invest in mutual funds, how you start investing in crypto, because I think pandemic was a time when everything was in rise. I read all the articles that I can, at least the first 3 tabs of the Google search that you have with respect to financial management, personal finance, etc. But trust me, nothing really helped, because there's no compression algorithm for practicing or experiencing. That's what I've realized. So you will have to keep practicing, and that's when I tried and experimented with a few applications. Now I consistently use one application for my personal finance, one newsletter that I follow regularly to ensure I keep up with the trends that are happening with respect to how you could save more and how you could cut down on your expenses, and some tools that are really helping. I started with Excel, moved on to a couple of other tools as well. So these things are really helping me to just ensure I keep a tab, not really cut down, but keep a tab of what's really coming in through. And I think that's what it is so far for me.
Nice. Good. Nisri, what about you?
Okay, so my relationship with money started very young. I think when I was in school. So my father, actually he wanted to have sons, but he had only daughters. So he thought of empowering his daughters. Like, so he used to teach us about money, banking transactions. I come from a business family, so the businesses and everything, even in my school days. But one mistake he did was like he empowered his daughters, but he didn't empower his wife. So that's my mother. So what happened was when I was in college, he met with an accident. But at that time only we realized that my mother was unaware of where all our accounts was in, where all he had invested. At that time, my father is a doctor and he invested heavily in a hospital project. It was during that time only like we realized like my mother was clueless about what are the kind of liabilities, how the project is progressing, what are the transactions and everything. We had money in the bank for but about 6 to 12 months we were not able to touch it just because the passwords things, but it was not in a joint or either a survivor mode. So that way, I mean, that was a turning point for me. It was a time when we all realized women should know the things. Women should have the discussions in families. Husbands should tell wives, okay, these are the investments we are having. These are the liabilities we are having. These discussions or open financial conversations we should have in families. But I was in college at that time, but it gave me a feeling like, okay, at least I should be taking charge of my finances. This shouldn't happen again to anyone. At that time only I started looking out to my friend circles, relative circle and all. At many places I've seen this, many women, they are earning a lot. Like they are, I mean, they have a good fat bank balance, but somebody else is taking care of it. It's just like money comes to your bank. After that, okay, there will be some auto debit. So you tell your spouse, okay, just take care of it. Your spouse will come and ask you, okay, have this bill, this payment is made. They say yes. So that is a scenario. So for me, when I got a job, my first job, and I started my career in the banking field, there also, I've seen all the men in the bank will be very active discussing about this share trading, daily trading. They're so crazy about it. On the other hand, we women just work and we go back home. At least I think me and one of my colleague, a friend, we were the only two women there who were interested in taking all this shares, starting investing in mutual fund and all. So my relationship with money started with that one turning point. And that banking career also helped me a lot because I've been seeing different scenarios there. Like there are cases where mis-selling happening, and there are cases where women buy a product, or even men and women, they buy a product and they don't know what it is. Like I've seen people who have invested in ULIP and thinking it is mutual fund, or sometimes there may be some account is existing, but something happens to one partner and the others are not aware such an account or an investment is there. So these kind of scenarios I was coming across on a day-to-day basis. So all this were, I mean, seeding that thought in my mind, and that's how it evolved. Harmony Talks evolved from all these experiences, in fact. And when I
Really?
quit my banking field, I worked with a lot of women who wanted to restart their career, who are working as freelancers. There also I have experienced the lack of financial freedom. They all want to do something, but they have that feeling, okay, I don't have a savings of my own. So how will I invest in a business which is my dream? So a lot of experiences are there, which is a turning point at each point, in fact.
Nice. Excellent. You've touched on very nice. Your relationship began early. What about you, Susanna? How about yours?
Mine, it really hit me probably just a couple of years ago. Although from the time when I first started earning money in college, I knew to save up for the short term goals. If I wanted to travel somewhere, then I'll save up. But things just still was always kept in the bank account. I didn't really invest. So for me, Vaishali, kind of similar to you, it was during the pandemic time, but also I was about to get married. And I'm somebody who likes to be in control of my things. So that's around the time when I started exploring, okay, what do I do with this? What do I do with my money? How do I create a budget? How am I going to do this after marriage? So it was just a very, I don't know, that transition kind of pushed me to go and understand this a little bit more. And I got into a couple of different things. I started investing in digital gold. This is the time when gold prices were going up as well. So I tried that out for a little bit. Started investing in Zerodha Kite. That was my first experience with stocks ever. Started with very small amount, and I honestly think learning by doing is a great way. So I just picked all of this up on my own. Whenever I needed some help, I would just Google it. But yeah, I think that transition really pushed me to take control of things. Yeah.
Very nice. I mean, all three of you have very different times when it hit you. Something similar to you, Susanna, I always like to be in control of what is going around me. I think many of us are, except finances. I mean, I would be comfortable just letting my dad advise me on what to do. Okay, I just know something is getting deducted from my account and just going somewhere. But yeah, similar to you, a couple of years back, I too started with Zerodha. I think it's an easier platform to understand, and I started small, and I'm still learning. So really nice. And now I want to understand, Nisri, from you. Now that we're talking about investment, I think it's a good segue to understand what kind of investment works well for women and why. If you could give maybe a working women's perspective, it'd be really good.
Okay, so first thing is we need to change from this traditional perspective of safe investment zones or FDs, gold, and all. I think a lot of women, we are so emotional when it comes to our investments, and especially when it is gold investment or a good old post office savings or an LIC insurance. I think we think more on a product perspective. When we say investment, the first thing that comes to our mind is a product. We think of FDs, we think of gold or a post office or an insurance. This is how we think. I think this perspective needs to be changed, and we need to think more in terms of a financial planning. Like, for example, to put it in a simple way, say, suppose you are earning 50,000 a month. How much of that, I mean, can go in, you require for your day-to-day expenses? Maybe 30% of that or 40% of that. Remaining has to be invested somewhere. So when you say investment, it is not just you go and buy a product and invest in that. You need to invest based on your goals and aspirations. So suppose you are having a goal like, okay, I want to buy a house after 5 years. And retirement planning is very important in everybody's life. Having a life insurance is another important thing which we cannot miss. And having these are our needs. But at the same time, we want our money work for us. So we need to deviate from this product mindset and think more on a portfolio basis. Like investing a good percentage. Say suppose you have 20,000 to invest. At least 50% of that, I mean, to go in equity investment so that it grows over a long period. And some portion of it, yeah, you need to park it safe because, yeah, you need that cushioning of the safe zone. And some part of it could be for your emergencies. So, these kind of planning, rather than thinking about any product or a platform, is very important. This is the first thing I think we should. And there is no harm in taking a risk. And how much risk you can take in by investing in shares or equity, also depending on your needs and your current financial situation. So this kind of approach helps a lot, I guess.
So the change from just saying that I'm putting my money safe to actually start financial planning with maybe
Yeah,
short term, like Susanna was also saying, and Vaishali is saying that entrepreneurs need. You need short term goals, you need mid term goals, you need long term goals. And for personal level, it becomes your aspirations. Like you said, some have aspirations to say buy a car or travel somewhere or buy a house. So the financial planning is what is going to help you reach these goals and aspirations, and not just putting some money in a product. It's you don't know what's going to do. Is it going to help you reach your
exactly.
goal? So thanks, Misri. It's really insightful. So Susanna, what do you, the platforms you refer to? You mentioned that you also are a self-learner. So what platforms did you refer to for financial literacy? And if you could
Um,
throw in a little perspective about the small businesses also, it would be great.
Got it. Yeah. So for me, I refer to quite a few YouTube channels, and I think YouTube is a great source of you can just type what you're looking for, and you'll find enough and more resources there. Varsity by Zerodha is also a really good resource, and it's free and it's very detailed. You can go into it and learn by subject as well. So these are all resources. I think these are great for first-time investors, someone who starting from scratch. So I think those are really good. If you're not someone who's digitally savvy and you need someone to sit down and explain to you, you can, if not a bank, you can always go to an NBFC also, and people there are very well versed with financial products. So they can explain it to you. You can always take the support of a customer executive at these places also. There's also a website called Ticker Tape, which I've used a few times, and it's been quite helpful for.
Great. Thanks, Susanna. So the audience, whatever our panelists mentioned, we will put it down in the comment or in the description for that, so that you don't you get easy access to whatever the tools and the advice which our panelists are mentioning. It'll also be up in our website soon, so you can also check it out there. I'll come to you, Vaishali. The entrepreneurs, I'm sure they're already taking some steps. Or what do you think? Branching off your previous answer, right? What are the steps founders and would-be entrepreneurs are taking or should take to ensure they have their company is stable and can run for quite a bit of time?
Sure. I think just banking on the previous question with respect to what Susan also answered, I think we all go through, and this applies to entrepreneurs as well or across professions. I think doing well with money isn't necessarily about what you know; it's about how you behave with the money, right? And the behavior is very hard to teach, even really to smart people, and that's what entrepreneurs feel themselves as very much. That I really know my stuff. I really know what I'm doing. And I think that's a common behavior that we've seen across entrepreneurs and a lot of these founders as well. Even though I think that's one module, if you really ask me, that really needs to be mandated for every entrepreneur before they begin or get on their startup journey. As they're in the early stages itself, and as they scale, I think there will be organizations or support mechanisms that will always be available for them in case if they need extra support. But I think for the early stage ones, there are definitely online courses, online modules that would really help entrepreneurs where they can learn more about it. At the same time, have a peer group to discuss this, right? I feel entrepreneurs do not really discuss finance because it's a lot about your business. Your ego and pride comes in between when you're talking about your business finances, etc. And there's not an accountability or a peer learning group for entrepreneurs, which is missing for finance at least, because they usually don't be very transparent about these conversations. I really feel if founders can find a group of friends or friends that they could trust with, the other founders at least, sit down together, discuss finances, understand what are the best practices, because what worked for you could work for another business and could be replicated across as well. And especially the early stage ones really need to experiment quite a bit to learn what works for them. But I think we all have to understand that's an evolving journey with the changing times. It's going to be very difficult for us to say that there's going to be a fixed template, you go play with it and you're done. I don't think it's going to be like that anymore. I think it's going to be changing for each of us in different ways. But how you keep evolving and adapting to what's really coming up is absolutely needed. So a peer group, a platform that could ensure you keep a tab on the expenses and the finances in general, and a professional. I think entrepreneurs or founders usually don't look up for professionals. I mean, when they look at big organizations like Big Four or the other boutique organizations, they have a fear that the check would be a little high on the higher side. But there are these small consultants that they could probably hire to manage their money, to manage their finances in a much better way and give them a better advice to what's really being spent on the balance sheet. I think these things are really important for them to keep in mind as they grow.
Awesome. Thanks, Vaishali. Really interesting topics which we discussed in the last segment. Now, I just want to get into a little more concrete steps from all of you. So, Susanna, I'll start with you. If we look back to how things were 5 years back and now, what were the different saving options present then? How have the financials portfolios become varied now? And my last question would be, how often should somebody look at their financial portfolios? Like we've gone through that we need financial planning, we need different investments, etc. So what were the saving options before and now? How often should we look at them?
I guess 5 years ago, you still had all the traditional means of savings and investing that still applicable today, like the FDs, NCDs, and for investing in things like gold or the stock market. And Indians have always been very fond of gold as an investment, and people often monetize their gold by either getting a loan against it or selling it. But digitization has opened up a lot more avenues for saving. For example, digital gold is something that is very easy for someone new to investing to understand. And one of the advantages is that, see, when we invest in physical gold, we mostly buy it in the form of jewelry, and it tends to be 22 karat. You're paying a lot of extra making charges and fees when you buy it from the jewelers. With digital gold, you are able to purchase 24 karat gold. The pricing is a lot more transparent. Even if you buy physical gold at 24 karat, you're paying a lower amount when you're buying it digitally. You can sell it at any point. It's all on your phone. Most of the digital gold platforms allow you to invest as little as 1 rupee. So this is something you can just go and buy for 50 rupees maybe, follow and see how your money is progressing. You can kind of understand how it works and then decide if you want to do it. And this is the same with apps like Zerodha, Kite, where it's made it more accessible and it's become much more easier to use. Again, you can go when you're going through a broker, which is how you would traditionally go about it. You can't just have a broker and say, "Hey, I want to buy one stock of Bajaj Finance." Whereas when you have the app and you have the flexibility to, and that's how I started. Actually, I bought one share. I think I put in about 1,000 rupees. Followed those couple of shares for a little while. Got a little bit more confident because as I was looking at the stock that I bought, I was also looking at other ones because I was getting into the app anyway. Kind of got how it works, got more confident, and now I feel a lot more confident to invest a lot more money in the stock market. And with regard to your question on how often you should look at your portfolio, personally, what has been told to me and how my dad usually does this, so that's how I follow. That's what I follow as well. Is what he used to tell me is just find the top companies. The companies that have been around, have a great track record. For example, HDFC or Tata. So these are companies that have been performing really well. They're the those large cap companies.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying just invest and forget. So invest in these companies, your stock will grow. You're not taking a very high risk, but regardless, if you want, you don't have to look at it every 6 months or every year or two to make sure that your portfolio might go down. If you look at my portfolio right now, it's doing very poorly. Even the top companies are doing poorly. But at the end of the day, if you keep it for the long term, your portfolio will go up. So that's how I like to.
If you have safe investments, then yes. And from what I understand, Susanna, that we need to have things sorted when we invest like this for the long term. You can't expect it to change day to day unless you are in a day-to-day type of trading, which is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about investments, then it has to be.
Yeah, especially for somebody who's coming in into this for the first time. Risky stocks are not the way to go. You want to start safe till you get the hang of it.
Yeah, excellent. Nisri, what is the one instrument that is most commonly misunderstood? Probably not required, but people invest in it anyway. And after you answer that, are there any safe and smart tools for investments? Maybe something, a different perspective than what Susanna just told us.
So there is no one safe investment, or the misunderstood product is, I think, shares and mutual funds. Many people have that concept or that perception like shares are very risky. It's kind of gambling. That's how we think about it. Second is mutual fund. Many people are reluctant to invest in mutual fund, thinking you are going to lose your money. Especially, I think maybe the disclaimer popping up when you see the mutual fund ad is something putting us back. We are thinking, okay, this is something not safe. So that's a misunderstood product. In fact, that is these two are the very good investment tools in instruments which helps you to grow your money. And when it comes to youngsters, I think the much misunderstood product is crypto, because it's so, I mean, the way it is advertised, the way, I mean, the people are, I mean, they are so keen about knowing about the things, and they, I mean, this is not regulated in India. Crypto investments is not regulated, but maybe people listen from their peers, or they see some cool apps, or they downloading it and starting investing. So that is another thing. They think that crypto is something which can double your money in very short term. So I think on one side, crypto is the misunderstood product, and other side, especially with women, shares and mutual funds are the misunderstood product. On
Thanks.
the other hand, there is no tools or anything. I think today there are a lot of good apps which makes your financial planning so easy. Like with the help of technology and AI, it's very easy that you can just enter your goals, and the app will show you, or the tools will show you, okay, how much time it is going to take, what is the kind of returns it is expected in each product, no, what you can expect, how soon you can achieve your goals. All these things are at the tip of your fingers today. So I think I'm not recommending any particular app, but there are a lot of like Upstock, Scriptbox. There are a lot of financial planning tools there out there, which makes it so easy. Or even if you just Google, I think the leading sites will pop up on top. Like there are sites like Grow, ClearTax, all this having very easy, and anybody can just enter your amount, see the returns, and plan your goals. So
Excellent.
that way, a lot of fear which we have can be mitigated, and it's so easy to plan nowadays.
Perfect. So we've learned financial planning, investments, and we also have apps if we are starters that we can get into and start our planning, which will be easier. Thanks, Susanna and Nisri. Vaishali, do you have any technology or tool that you have come across, or it's in development? Maybe you are part of that ecosystem that makes these financial portfolio management easy for a startup.
For startups, I think they're still evolving. To be honest, I think there are general tools for financial portfolio management to keep your books, to keep your house in order, if I could really say that, right? I think how this works. But it really works differently for different stages. So I'm not really sure if I would want to call out specific names, but I think on a personal finance and for everyone who's exploring, I think Zerodha is definitely something what I've explored as well, and just so easy to do it yourself. You don't really have to, and the existing, knowledge base that they already have, or the newsletters that they share with the updates, and I think that's something that's really helping us. I do follow a bunch of podcasts and read a bunch of books as well that usually help me to keep up with what's coming in and to keep it very simple and stupid, right? Because I think when it comes to finances, you go back to basics. When it comes to, I mean, there are standard definitions to each of these things and standard practices, which you really have to see how you could take it forward. So I really would want to see how I could probably recommend some books and podcasts on that front. I absolutely am hooked on to this podcast called Girls That Invest, which is run by Simran and Sonia on Spotify. There's Financial Confessions by Chelsea, and HBR Women at Work also has better podcast on financial independence and how you could do more investment as women. entrepreneurs or professionals in general. I usually recommend that quite a bit for anyone who's just getting started and are trying to understand what is available out there and understand the holistic ecosystem to see what works for you, right? Because I think each one of have our priorities and needs in a different way, and the lifestyle kind of changes every year for a lot of us. So how do you just ensure you keep up with all of this? I would recommend that. And I think books, I would recommend to start with
Yeah.
The Psychology of Money. I had it right next to me. But this is something that really changed the lens at which I look at when it comes to money and how we are handling money. And of course, the basic book that I think, which is supposed to be the top 10, which is supposed to be on the top 10 reading list for everyone, is Rich Dad Poor Dad. It just changes the perspective of how you're looking at things. And that's a good reread as well in case if you've read it earlier. But these are the technology tools, books, podcasts that I really follow to ensure I keep up with all of this. But we all need to do a good job at keeping up with it in practice as well. So
Thanks, Vaishali. Incidentally, I have a personal experience. After I read Psychology of Money, is when I followed what Nisri and Susanna mentioned, that you need to have financial planning and portfolio. That's when I started researching. Oh, you know what? I need to have this. So yes, the behavior with money and how you look at it really changes. And yeah, I second your recommendation. Great. We are almost to the close. I have one nice, a little far-reaching question, maybe, but we've talked about financial planning, portfolio, investments, risky, what we should start with, the tools which we can use. One question I have is, how can my money make money? Can my money make enough money so that it's almost equivalent to the salary I have right now? I mean, this is a question which is asked. So, what are your perspectives on it? It's for all of you. How can my money, which is sitting, make more money? Anyone? Susanna, maybe?
Yeah, I think we've already talked about a lot of the ways you can invest your money. But I think a couple of things that we need to remember are, one, wealth cannot be created overnight. And the second thing, so we have to be patient. That is very, very important. And the second thing is, it is very important to be systematic and regular with it. Specifically talking about small business owners, one suggestion that I would have is to look at investing in something like an SIP or an ETF. I remember one time seeing the math of how compounding works for your SIPs, and my mind was just blown out there. I was just thinking, why haven't I been doing this whole time? Yeah, you can really make some money off of that, the power of compounding. I read somewhere that the average returns over 5 years on SIP in India particularly is somewhere around 25 to 35%, which is very high. So I think for first-time investors, this is a very easy to understand and a good way to invest, and a good way to invest systematically as well. And this is available in various different forms, whether you want it on an app, you can get it, you can do this via the Zerodha app or similar apps like that. You can go through a brokerage firm, you can go through, we do it in our Muthoot FinCorp branches for our customers. So yeah, I think investing even a small amount on a regular basis can go a long way. So.
Great. Nisri?
Yes, like Susanna mentioned, you need a lot of patience and discipline. These two are two important things. And again, to make your money, these are the two things which you have to do. But again, to make your money work for you, I think we need to focus on 3 or 4 things. One is, of course, returns. Other is safety, where you invest. Then third is liquidity. And the fourth one is how much you save. So when you say returns, is that, there are different products which give you high returns, lower returns, medium returns and all. We need to compare between these two instruments and see how you can make your money work and give more returns in a long term. Second thing is that when we invest somewhere, there is no shortcut. There is no way of doubling your money. So you have to do the background check. You have to see whether you are investing with the authorized people or where you are investing it. Is it safe or not? So being your money safely parked somewhere is very important. Another thing is that having your money when you really need it, because there's no point, say suppose a huge money is invested in real estate and you are not able to touch it, or your money is locked up somewhere and you don't have it when you really need it. Your money is not working for you at that point. So having your money when you really, that accessibility when you really need, that is very important. And while you focusing all these, most important thing is saving your money, because we never realized from where all the leakages are happening. Maybe it can be tax, it can be some penalties, it can be interests, so many things. It is out of control if you don't keep a check on everything. So basically, the awareness, the right planning, and the discipline. With these three, I think you can make your money work for you.
Excellent. Thank you, Nisri. Vaishali, what about you?
I think for me, it's I go back to Harry Potter reference on how they say you have to choose, you must choose carefully. That's how it works for me when it comes to going through emergency funds, insurance, saving up on my taxes, given I'm a working professional. But I realized I think the question needs to be looked at in a different way, right? How do we make more money with our time that we have? And given the number of opportunities that we see around, which is where I think a lot of entrepreneurs are also cropping up right now with the side gigs that we're all trying to take up with the passion
Yeah.
projects, etc. Right? I think we really have to see how do we value time while investing money at a particular place, while keeping patience and taking those calculated risks. So it's really important for us to ensure we have patience, but at the same time, have like an eye for ensuring we also invest in some risk that are calculated, some risk related investments that we could probably make that could be calculated as well, that could work for everyone. But I'm really looking forward to see how I could keep learning more, because I think that's an evolving journey for a lot of us.
Great. Thank you so much, ladies. That comes to the questions I needed to ask you. And I think it's been a very remarkable learning journey for me in this 1 hour. We do have some audience questions. Maybe we could take 2 or 3 of them and have you guys, talk about it. So, can we have the first question, please?
Hello, my name is Shambhavi and I'm currently residing in Noida. My question for the panelists is that how do I make or how do I plan for a retirement fund?
Wow, she's already looking at a retirement fund. She seems very young. Any of you, how can Shambhavi plan for a retirement fund? What do you think is good? Yeah, Nesri, please.
Sure. I think Shamli have a long time to go for plan for her retirement. So I would like to call it as a long-term goal. So I think the best, as you have a long time, you can take a little bit of risk, which means you can park that money in equity investments, because you are allowing your money to grow so that you will be able to achieve your goals in your retirement time. So as I hope she's she's earning now. So in that case, she can park something on a regular basis, like an SIP, or if something like if she can park a lump sum also, that also works, or a mix of lump sum or SIPs regularly in mutual funds or equity investments, and just forget about it for some time, so that let it allow it to grow, have a discipline and allow it to grow. That may be the best approach she can do right now for her retirement planning.
Excellent. Susanna, Vaishali, do you have anything to add, or can we move to the next?
No, I think Nisri summarized it quite well. And I think we've been talking about that same thing again and again about being systematic and being patient. So I think, I think Nisri, you answered that question really well.
Great. Can we have the next question, please?
Good evening and wish you all a happy Women's Day. I'm Cheryl from Mumbai and my question to the panelist is as follows. As a 30-year-old, what is the kind of insurance I should invest into? Is it a term insurance, a life insurance, or a health insurance?
Nice question. Nisri, I think it falls into your bucket.
Yeah.
Yes, please go for it.
So term insurance and life insurance both are same. So I ideally you should go for a term insurance. When it comes to life insurance, also there are a lot of plans. Like there are saving plans, retirement plans, ULIP plans, everything. There are a lot of plans. But very ideal is a plain vanilla term insurance, where at a very less premium you get a high coverage. So that is the best investment instrument you can, because insurance is always an insurance, it's not an investment. So don't mix up insurance and investments. The mistake many people, I mean, do is that you may be coming across a lot of advertisement which is saying that okay, you invest here and you get returns. But technically, the returns you are getting out of insurance is very less. At the same time, we all have that frame of mind like, see, I'm putting so much money in insurance. I'm not getting any returns out of it. So why do I put this money in insurance? I can park that money in FD, right? So that gives me some return. So that's how we all think. But insurance is different, and FD, I mean, parking your money in FD, that is totally different concept. Insurance is a must have for everyone, and a plain vanilla term life insurance is ideal for you. Buy when you are young so that you get a high coverage.
Great, great. Thanks, Nisri. Thank you so much. The next question, please.
Hello, my name is Donna and I'm from Kochi. And I'd like to ask a question to the panelists. What are some of the tips that you'd have for women to secure a stable cash inflow before starting their business venture? Thank you.
Anyone? Susanna, Vaishali, maybe? What can you do before you start a business venture? Maybe Vaishali, you want to have a go? I know we've spoken about it a little, but you can probably help Donna out.
Yeah, I think it depends on what kind of venture that you're really getting into, right? If you're talking about a tech-based one or a non-tech one, because if it's a services business, then we are discussing about a different sort of sheet that usually comes in place. And if it's a tech-based one, we're speaking about scale, where you have to invest upfront with respect to a few resources, few technologies, and tools. But with respect to services, I think the portfolio seems quite different when it comes to services, but I think the principles remain same with respect to people, with respect to platforms. Ensure you, I mean, what will get your minimum viable product in place? If you could really save up for that, I think that's something that you can really look at when you're kick starting your business, and also at the same time, reach out for investments. And I think that's a good validation. Reach out for investments as in reach out for angels who are investing in this particular space, right? And discuss with your family, friends, or anyone in the family who can really believe in your idea. And I think that just gives you a lot of confidence when you're going ahead with the respective one, so that you could really bother about the business and someone else takes care of your finances. But yeah, I think those are the immediate things that come onto my mind right now.
Susanna, you have anything to add to that?
No, nothing to add to that.
Great, great. Can we have the next question, please? I think we may have a couple more.
Hi, my name is Gauri, and the one question that I have is there any advice that you would like to offer women who are afraid to take the first step towards financial independence?
Okay, I think there's a last question. If we could have all three panelists giving confidence to all the women.
Shraddha, would you mind repeating the question? I couldn't hear.
Yeah. Can we repeat that last question, please?
No, I couldn't hear the video.
My name is Gauri, and the one question that I have is there any advice that you would like to offer women who are afraid to take the first step towards financial independence?
So Gauri is asking, can you advise women who are afraid to take the first step towards financial independence? What would you, I mean, I think it comes from, the fear to start and maybe afraid to go wrong. So it would be really nice, since it is the last question, if all of you could weigh in a little, and it'll be good for our audience to also get some confidence.
I think if you're somebody who's very, the fear is what's stopping you from doing it, I would start very small. So whether it is putting money into any traditional forms of investment, or into any of the newer applications that we've talked about today, I would say start small. Start with something you can really afford. Try it out for some time. Try out a couple of different ideas, a couple of different investment platforms, and then see what works for you. I think over time, you will feel more confident. Whether it is the stock market, whether it is digital gold, whether it is NCD. All of these, I think it's just a matter of building some confidence. And um, once you realize where you want to invest, you can always go for, take the advice of a professional as well.
Vaishali, do you have some advice?
I just have one line advice. I think, as the Chinese proverb goes, the best time to plant, plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time is now. I think this applies to everyone who's afraid of anything in general, not just investments and savings and talking about money. But I think there's no better time, especially for women, to start investing and balancing what they really have on their current lifestyles and get started, right? So I think this is just the best time.
Perfect. Nisri, thoughts from you?
Yeah, I would like to say it's okay to make a mistake. But at the same time, like Susanna has mentioned, you can start small. If you're still afraid, the best thing is that have a conversation in your family, like whether it is your spouse or your parents. Talk to them and see what I can do, or take help in the beginning. There's no harm in taking a help. Take a small step, then keep watching. You yourself will realize, okay, what is working and what's not working, and slowly you get that confidence. If you're not, I mean, don't have anybody to help, take a professional advice. There's nothing wrong in asking. You can ask your peer groups as well. So these are the best things you can do. At least when you hear your friends saying, okay, let's do it, that gives you a lot of confidence to start.
And once you start and you see that it's growing systematically, that's all the confidence you will need to take the second step.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much, Susanna, Vaishali, Nisri, for such an amazing conversation. A very happy Women's Day to all of you. And I'm sure the audience have learned a lot today. And to everyone who's watching, please do look into Restart India, our website, and some of the conversation, the advice we will try and collate from all the panelists, and we'll put it there as a question and answer segment. Please do shop small, support small, stay safe, and see you all very soon in our next segment of Let's Talk Business. Happy Women's Day, everyone. Good night.